The canopy blows off a Marine Hornet above a Cascades lake, and a single ejection seat fires clear, a heartbeat before the jet folds into the mountain. The last aircraft lost over this valley did not give its crew that heartbeat. The footage is from June 13th, 2026. An FA-18D Hornet going down roughly 55 miles southeast of Seattle, east of Mount Rainier, near Rimrock Lake. The pilot, the only person aboard the two-seater, came down under one chute with minor injuries and walked out to a county sheriff's deputy posted in the mountain passes. The wreck lit the pine tree fire, 2 acres in steep forest the crews had to fight from the air before it could spread. The Corps' first statement called it a, quote, non-fatal aviation mishap. The Marine Corps would not name the unit. A Puget Sound spotter did it for them, photographing aircraft at Boeing Field, where a flight of death rattlers had staged out of Miramar, and noticing that 4 Hornets went out and 3 came back. The missing jet was Bureau number 165412, tailcode WS415, callsign Snake21, of VMFA 323. One empty space on the ramp was the whole forensic trail. Evergreen intel and the aviation trackers had the tail number out hours before the Corps confirmed anything. The crash sits on Visual Route 1355, a low-level corridor that threads the valleys of the Cascades, known to the crews who fly it as the $1 Million Ride for its scenery and its aggressive terrain-hugging runs, and a longtime favorite of the region's Growler squadrons. It is also near enough where a Navy EA-18G Growler of Squadron VAQ-130 went down in October 2024, taking the lives of both aviators aboard, Lieutenant Commander Lindsay Evans and Lieutenant Serena Weilman. 2 jets on the same mountain in under 2 years reads like cursed ground. In 2024, the crew never got out. In 2026, on terrain just as unforgiving, the ejection sequence ran exactly as built and put a pilot under a parachute who was seconds from the same end. An FA-18D runs somewhere between $29 and $57 million, depending on its fit, and the Legacy Hornet production line closed in 2000. The design entered Marine service in the 1980s, which makes the jet that burned near Rimrock Lake older than many of the Marines still flying the type. VMFA 323, one of the most storied attack squadrons in Marine aviation, flew the Corps' final Hornet carrier deployment aboard the USS Nimitz in early 2021 and is due to trade its jets for the F-35. The footage proves the escape system held, which on this route is not a small claim. It says nothing about why a routine ride down a familiar valley ended in the trees under a clear noon sky. A witness camping below heard it before the smoke. A couple of jets had already passed over the lake, and then one came through, making, quote, popping sounds. That's the sound aircrews associate with a compressor stall, an engine gagging on its own airflow, the kind of failure a tight valley gives a pilot almost no room to answer. Whether that is what happened, no one yet knows. The Marines have named no cause, and say the inquiry can, quote, take several months. A clip from Moscow spread online on June 18th under a single joke caption, UFO. What the footage actually shows is worse for the Kremlin than a flying saucer. The clip, shot from a southeastern suburb, ends with the round dome roof of a fuel tank torn loose and tumbling end over end above the rooftops, a metal disc spinning against the sky. The disc is the lid of a storage tank at the Moscow oil refinery in Kapotnya, and what threw it there was almost certainly one of Moscow's own air defense missiles. The footage shows a drone in frame, a missile crossing below it, missing its target, trailing the thin contrail of an anti-aircraft interceptor. Then the missile flies into the tank. From that trajectory and that contrail, the independent monitoring project, Astra, placed the launch to the northeast and named the likely shooter, a Pantsir, a Russian point defense missile and gun system. Other channels posted the same instant from different windows, each frame holding the interceptor's trail. The footage traveled an odd path to reach them, surfacing first, by most accounts, on the Chinese segment of TikTok, before Russian and Ukrainian analysts pulled it apart, frame by frame. The friendly fire reading did not stay a Ukrainian talking point. A Ukrainian blogger raised it first, and then the pro-war Russian channel Voyeni Osvedometi agreed in print, writing that the footage shows, quote, an anti-aircraft missile hitting the fuel depot. A Kremlin-aligned military blog in Kyiv rarely described the same clip the same way. There's little propaganda left to strain out. It happened inside the largest drone raid on Moscow since February 2022. The mayor announced at 9:27 a.m. that 194 drones had been downed on the approaches to the city. And across the same morning, the cameras told a second story. Air defenses firing and missing. Debris dropping onto apartment blocks. Some of those launchers sit bolted to the rooftops of Moscow high-rises, which means every miss has to come down somewhere in the city beneath them. The compact missiles the Pantsir carries against drones appear on this evidence to lose to the cheap targets they were designed to track, their seekers struggling to lock on to a slow plastic airframe. The Kapotnya plant is one of the 10 largest refineries in Russia, with a yearly capacity of nearly 11 million tons of crude, and feeds close to 40% of the Moscow region's fuel. It had been hit 2 days earlier and reportedly has stopped work. At least 2 storage tanks caught fire, and a single processing unit, nearly half the plant's throughput, was reported damaged. Ukraine's Counter-Disinformation Center later published satellite imagery of the aftermath, the wrecked processing unit, and the tank, whose roof had been thrown dozens of meters into the air. By afternoon, lines were forming at filling stations across the capital. The drones did real damage, but the morning's most cinematic explosion, the disc that became a UFO joke, was not a Ukrainian warhead at all. It was a Defender's missile that found a fuel tank instead of the drone it was chasing. For 6 years, China let the world photograph the DF-17 parked on a parade truck. On June 20th, its state broadcaster finally showed the missile doing the one thing a parade never reveals, leaving the ground. The clip ran on a CCTV military program days before the July 1st anniversary, marking 60 years since the founding of the Rocket Force's predecessor, the 2nd Artillery Force. The camera tightens on the wedge-shaped glide vehicle, riding the missile's nose, the piece that carries the warhead and does the maneuvering. Then the launcher stands the missile vertical on the edge of a road in the Gobi Desert and fires. A second segment shows several launch vehicles rolling into position at once. Salvo drills run under heavy electromagnetic jamming and simulated precision strikes. It's the first launch footage of the DF-17 ever made public. On the glide body, the small control fins are what an informed eye lingers on. They let the warhead break and swerve in its final seconds, the move that defeats an interceptor. The DF-17 is China's first fielded hypersonic weapon, a nuclear-capable, road-mobile system that flies above Mach 5 on a glide vehicle built to maneuver under missile defenses. Its range, roughly 1,100 to 1,550 miles, covers the first island chain, the arc from Japan through the Philippines that Washington leans on to box in China's Navy, and reaches the American bases inside it. The road-mobile launcher is the whole point. A missile that can fire from any stretch of desert road is a missile an enemy cannot find before it flies. CCTV narration leaned on exactly that, stressing launches on short notice from unplanned sites, even through jamming. It is important to note what the broadcasting highlighted and what it skipped. CCTV mentioned that the DF-26, an intermediate-range missile known as the Guam Killer, was used during the exercise, but they didn't show it launching. Additionally, a quick glimpse of a new unidentified missile with a unique bicone nose appeared on a launcher similar to the DF-17's. State-run media rarely include such details by mistake. Ultimately, Beijing released exactly what they wanted the world to see. The specifications are real enough, confirmed at 2 parades, in 2019 and again last September, and in the Pentagon's own finding that China fields, quote, the world's leading hypersonic missile arsenal. The program's military commentator pushed the frame wider, calling the newest system, quote, the latest improved version of the DF-26. Timed to an anniversary and aired into a 10th season over Taiwan, the video does the work the weapon is built for long before a shot is fired. It tells Washington that stepping in now carries a cost it can no longer count on intercepting. None of this confirms the missile performs as sold. A clean vertical launch says nothing about whether the glide vehicle lands on its target at 1,500 miles. The claim that it cannot be stopped is Beijing's. Russian soldiers place a tricolor on the edge of Konstantinivka, and Moscow declares the town of Donetsk captured. The town has not fallen. The flag may never have flown. The men in the frame may never have existed. The clip surfaced across Russian military channels in mid-June, paired with matching footage from the nearby village of Dolgobalka and an official Defense Ministry claim of capture. The Institute for the Study of War reviewed it on June 16th and assessed that the flag raisings may have been generated or altered with artificial intelligence. The commander of Ukraine's 19th Army Corps, Brigadier General Alexander Bakulin, called the activity around the town a deliberate misinformation operation. No independent evidence places the settlement under Russian control. The ground truth is messier and slower. Small Russian assault groups have pushed into parts of the city and are trying to carve it into sectors. A tactic that preceded the fall of Pokrovsk, while ISW still sees neither encirclement nor breakthrough. The signs were all there. Fabric that rippled wrong. Colors that felt wrong against the background. Softened faces and details where they mattered the most. The most damning catch came earlier this year, when a Russian live streamer living in New York watched a clip of a despairing Ukrainian soldier and found his own face stitched onto a stranger's body. In April, the forensic firm Sensity AI verified that a wave of viral videos showing demoralized Ukrainian troops panning across trenches lined with bodies was built with tools like Sora, and that the newest ones splice authentic and fake footage. The clips launch from anonymous accounts, gather engagement, and climb onto larger platforms until a pro-Kremlin outlet runs them as news. With the image itself no longer dependable, the tells that still hold are contextual. A flag raising now analysts can geolocate. Footage that surfaces only on channels with a stake in the result. The Konstantinivka flag is one frame of an entire modus operandi. Researchers have cataloged more than 1,000 of these synthetic videos, sorted by target. Soldiers told the line is breaking, civilians told the state has abandoned them, and the West told the war is already lost. The clips have evolved from crude single shots to multi-location montages, and the volume spiked around Russia's May 9th Victory Day. When the parade needed battlefield wins, the front was not delivering. ISW reads this as a campaign run with the blessing of Russia's high command, aimed past the home audience at Kyiv's Western partners. The flood is not built to make you believe a flag rose over Konstantinivka. It's built to make you doubt the next one, and the surrender after that, and the atrocity after that, until the footage stops proving anything. The firm that exposed the earlier fakes put the danger plainly. Synthetic video can, quote, shape perception at scale.